mean, you can learn things on your own. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But if you never apply them, you know, it's kind of hard to learn things without actually getting your hands dirty. So when it comes to pharma, I have credentials. I led labs. I had 100 people R&D team that worked for me. Alex, I mean, that's the point I'm making, is that even with a perfect quantum computer, I don't know what I would do with it other than solve RSA 4096, claim a little prize there, have a little victory lap for, you know, having the world's most powerful computer. But what's next? What am I actually doing? You know, be fun for 20 minutes. My apes are gone. I got hacked. Apes gone. Send help. Here's a good case of tangible book being very, very, very different from real book. This is AbbVie. So their goodwill is 95 billion and the assets are 134 billion. No, I don't exactly, Matt. I mean, one, quantum doesn't promise to solve traveling salesmen quickly. And then two, you have so many good approximations for traveling salesmen. And this is what, like, I think that guy Wigley doesn't, it's like too autistic to understand or appreciate, is that, you know, we have such good approximations for these NP hard problems that we don't need to actually solve them. It doesn't help you if let's say some traveling salesman route for UPS is 6 hours, you know, it doesn't help you, and that's the approximate. It does not help you to solve it and get the exact route for, you know, 5 hours and 59 minutes and 36 seconds. Like, that's not worth making a quantum computer for. VDaddy, it happens when there's acquisitions. That's sort of where goodwill happens. Yeah, Tom, it's definitely going to be cloud controlled and somewhat government controlled, but again, I think it's just a toy. It's no different from playing with an NMR. Like, what are you going to do? You might be able to decrypt really old information, but by the time these computers work, which again, my estimate is 50 years, again, I'm including time for winter. People will give up. You think people would make a concerted effort every day from here to 2070 or whenever it's going to take? There's going to be 20, 30 years of that, 50 years where nobody does anything because they're doing AI, they're doing robotics, they're doing other stuff. That's how the real world works. The real world, it has emotions in it. The real world is people get tired, venture capitalists lose money. They say, I'm not going to spend any more money on this. I mean, just, you know, if you don't make progress into science, industry, people stop caring about it, stop working on it. This happened in AI, like literally the whole 80s for AI was just dormant. And the 70s. There are just 5 to 10 year chunks where there's just nothing going on. VR is probably going back into a winter. I don't think you need quantum encryption. I think you do just quantum safe encryption. It's the coolest. I mean, for scientists or an engineer, it's the coolest thing ever. You really can't deny that. I mean, it is. But just because something is interesting and cool doesn't make it useful. You know, real people have to spend real money on it. I'm not sure what you're asking me, Marco Polo. You got to restate that. Godel has a lot of news sources. But if we're missing a story that you want, just let me know and I'll make sure we get it. Vinny, yeah, like I said, almost no system lets you do that. I think there's a reason for that. The exchanges are very protective of their granular data. So we may need to like relicense it to you or something like that. I think the exchanges, you know, that's one of the ways they make a lot of money, is selling that kind of data. So I don't think they like the idea of that data floating around or being easily accessible. Yeah, Bloomberg doesn't do it. Yeah, it's a redistribution license. We have redistribution licenses, but only for certain things. There's some things that they just won't let you redistribute. Now, Refinitiv has a tick store database. So I think for the right price, we'd do it, but I don't know. We'd have to talk to our partners. Yeah, we're still early days over here. The goal is to have full backwards compatibility. So, you know, anybody that learns the Bloomberg terminal should be able to use Godel, and anybody that learns Godel should be able to use the Bloomberg terminal. That's the idea. Obviously, kind of, you know, are we going to get there and how do we get there is another story. But, you know, I'm making trading tools and investment tools and market making tools and all kinds of stuff for you guys for the long run. Not exactly 𝐓𝐡𝐞. I mean, APIs are for people who want to do programmatic work. Most people on Bloomberg are not interested in using an API. They're fund managers, they're traders, you know, they're not writing any programmatic code. They don't know how to code. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I still have the dog in me, because the dog likes to disappear, you know? It's an old dog, he likes to sit down, lie down. You know, you ever have an old dog? That's all they do, they're just lying down. AbbVie's pretty levered. I don't think they could do another acquisition, a big one at least. I think they are they're saying they're gonna get into GLP. I think they should. They were late to TNF party and then became the biggest TNF inhibitor. So AbbVie is a strong commercial force. I am pretty levered up myself, yeah. I think at 37 you can learn programming. I don't see anything wrong with it. Yeah, I try to make investment decisions based on my investing process. When insider trading backfires, that's the most hilarious thing. Did it hurt 𝗏𝗏𝒡𝗏? I don't think so. 𝗏𝗏𝒏's still growing. You're thinking of the other jacks. 𝗏𝗏𝒏's killing it. 𝗏𝗏𝒏 doesn't have any black box. Well, even if maybe it has a black box, but I thought the whole point of 𝗏𝗏𝒏 is it had the cleanest label of all, but 𝗏𝗏𝒏 almost doubled year over year, up 50%. So I don't know how it's hurting them. They're the biggest jack seller by far. I think Pfizer jack, that drug's gotten destroyed. It's the biggest selling jack by far. Look at how many indications it has. There's a black box warning. Not 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐸, the old one. And why is 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐸 a joke? I'm not talking about 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐸. I'm talking about their first gen. Yeah, there's no better selling jack, dude. 𝗏𝗏𝒏 is crushing it. 6 billion in revenue. It was closer to 8 billion in revenue. Yeah, it's gonna do 8 billion next 12 months. There's no drug that you take once and it cures you for chronic illness because you have a chronic disease that continues to happen in the body. So once you stop taking the drug leaves your system, stops working. I don't know what your point is, Grub. You have a drug selling $8 billion and you're saying it's somehow been marginalized? It should be selling 20 billion? If you're making that point, then maybe. I mean, that's what they have 𝗓𝗏𝐲𝐬 for. Just don't really get what you're saying. Yeah, that is the idea, Vinny, and you do need AI for that to do it well. It's very difficult, actually. That's why I was asking based if there was another way. Yeah, a lot of these chronic conditions, it's very hard to decide what's happening, and you certainly can't stop the signal that initializes the disease from being sent. And you can't go backwards. A lot of it is transcription factors and all this stuff. Yeah, the oral peptide inhibitor is going to do fine, but 𝐓𝐡𝐞 was supposed to be the jack killer. AbbVie just bought an IL-23 oral peptide as well, so I don't know. Well, I think the oral peptide for J&J doesn't get gut exposure, but then I also remember a psoriasis study. You can get a 5-year maximum extension in the US through Hatch-Waxman exclusivity, but it's very hard to get that many years. You'd have to be in development for a very long time. I'm not an expert in that type of cancer, but obviously any cancer is cause for deep concern. You still might have some circulating tumor cells, microsatellites that could become tumors some other time. So yeah, obviously you'd want to check that every year. Psoriasis is not a scam. It's a pretty serious illness. You can use, there's lots of different pipelines you can use, but I would strongly suggest you use AI. Hallucinations aren't really a thing anymore. Yeah, I don't think you'd want to do it without AI. And this is my bread and butter. Yeah, I know. It sounds like you know the space. Immunology is such a weird space too, right? Like, it seems like these markets always expand, but then you have pockets like, look at IL-6 inhibitors, right? They never really took off. And then look at Dupixent, which is sort of all over the place. There's some tagging on files, but you really, so the SEC makes it a little bit easier, but you have to keep in mind that SEC filings are not the same as press releases. And if a company reports quarterly earnings in a press release and the 10Q's 3 weeks later, the 10K's a month later, you need to get it from the press release. And yeah, we do. I mean, we do it. We do it one too. There's tons of Godel data that's parsed from the SEC's website. The press releases are where you really need to win. And press releases are not meta tagged. Every company does them slightly differently. Even if you try to write some weird script that conforms to just NVIDIA's thing, it'll break. That's really brittle programming. You can't do that. Otherwise, you're going to have 6,000 people in your help channel saying, the Abercrombie & Fitch press release isn't parsed right. And you'll have a programmer seeing, oh, yeah, the regex doesn't include this dot, or whatever. So, and now there's this trend of companies not putting out press releases. It's the Roche drug that 𝗥𝗏𝗏𝗏 was the big IL-6, and it just never really got to a huge level. I didn't mention receipts necessarily. I don't think. But yeah, no two receipts are alike either, right? Press releases is the number one thing. That is the most important thing. Everything else has been done. I think we're going to do, for pricing for Godel, I think we're going to do weird system. Mostly going to be usage-based, but there'll be floors and ceilings as well. Yeah, I mean, press releases is the main way business news is transmitted quickly. The SEC filing, by the time the SEC filing comes out, it's old news. So you don't really need to worry about the SEC filings. And as you mentioned, they're XBRL tagged. So it's sort of pointless to think about. Yeah, the vertical campus, as they call it, it was good. Nice building. Baruch and Hunter College need to step up their games, though, man. New York could be, other than Columbia and NYU, and the problem with those schools. New York could be so much more. We're going to do the best thing by letting you not, use certain features and pay less. So like so many more people would use Bloomberg if it was equities only. If it was equities only, without fixed income, without this and that, be better to sort of to not have to pay for all that stuff that you're not using. Bloomberg makes you pay for it because they have to get all this stuff. Yeah, so it's a good question. So basically, old accounts will get full functionality. I'm counting on there being not many of you. There may be exceptions. For example, if we put out a market making algorithm, and that's, it's like pay per trade or pay per profit or whatever, you wouldn't get unlimited use of that. You would have to pay the same rate that others are paying. Yeah, we're raising capital. I wouldn't say we get inundated with requests, but we get a lot of requests to the point where we honestly have trouble keeping track of them. So if we give you a neural network to do an LSTM model to make trades for you, that neural network's costs us a lot of money to provision. Let's say it's $500 a month. We pass that through to you. If we do a co-location service and you want it, you're not going to get that for $60 a month either. So I'd say any base functionality where we're spreading cost across all users, you definitely would get. Any functionality where we're asking users to pay specifically to use a specific thing and it's like gated, you probably wouldn't get that. But we'll make sure we work out something positive, like maybe get a free time on it. I think the AWS system is just so good, and that just having the right billing system alone is going to crush Bloomberg. My dream is that you can do the full Bloomberg functionality for like a quarter of the price. And then we can make up for that. I want all the revenue. I want more revenue than them. But we make up for that by making better tools. Godel, we're in seed. So we did a pre-seed of 2 million. We're doing a seed of 5 million. I do almost no outreach myself. So that's really nice because I get to spend my time on the company and not hitting the road. And I don't think the terminal is bloated, because the beauty of a terminal is that it can't be bloated in some ways, right? It's a function of approach. But I sort of know what you're saying in the sense that some of their functions now feel a little hard to use, or like they're maybe trying to do too much at one time, or something like that. So I know kind of where you're going with that. But I think Terminal is still a great product. I mean, there's really, I think, nothing wrong with it, other than they sort of are still thinking about finance in the 1980s, and it's never really changed. Finance has changed a lot. I like to say that the average finance guy in 1980 was a cigar-chomping frat boy, overgrown frat boy with a famous last name. The average Wall Street guy in 2025 is a Chinese programmer. It's a very different world now. Very different world. Yeah, and retail is just, no B unit. The B unit is the bane of many people's existence. Like that, just replacing B unit logins alone is going to give us like 10% of their market share. That's our pitch, is like, when you can't find your B unit, go to godelterminal.com. It works the same way. You don't have to log in like an idiot. I just want to look at stock price and some news, but I got to use a fingerprint. I got to find this physical device. I got to use a fingerprint. Man. But I mean, I think other than that, which is a big deal, accessibility, you can't just sign up for Bloomberg. They want to interview you now as to whether or not I'm going to give you money. Like, it's just the nerve of them, I don't want to tell you about my money. They want to poke around your fund. I'm not going to ask any questions about how you make your money, where it came from. It's not my job. I'm here to sell you the software. I know the B unit doesn't exist anymore. They moved it to the app. But again, like, who had that idea? I don't think it's exclusivity. I don't think people actually want exclusive software because it's so expensive that people would buy one Bloomberg, and then they would share it. So we're rolling out salespeople as well at 𝗔𝐞𝐀. You will have a dedicated Godel person with a phone number. Bond market, listen, I mean, the bond market's really important. We're going to try our best. You know, there's no easy answer there, but there's stuff that we can do in equities that they haven't done yet. So I'd say interactive is probably best, Zach. The main reason, I hate to say this out loud because I don't want people to know this, but the main reason is either you're a programmer who's never traded size, or you're a size trader who has never programmed. There is no in between. I'm sorry, I've never met people who do both. It is very rare. All the long short guys, they've never written a computer program in their life. All the programmers, they've never traded $1 million or $10 million or $100 million in their life. You know, you do have a few guys that are quants, but they're not too helpful for making Bloomberg-like software. So like, just not, you know, it's just people that don't have the exact understanding of the product. I'm not Steve Jobs, but you know, I really do understand what traders want and need because I am one. I do this every day. And when I see something off in Godel, I immediately tell my guys and say, no, this little tiny detail is off. And they're like, does that matter that much? I was like, sometimes I say, not really, it's low priority. And sometimes I say, no, this is really important. This cannot be the wrong thing. And on other platforms, their programmers don't know. They don't care. I make all of my guys trade. Everyone here has to have a portfolio. And some guys, I think honestly, some guys don't like it. But you cannot make great, this is what Toby said at Shopify. The only great products have ever come from people who are passionate about them. You will burn out otherwise. So if you don't love investing and you don't love, you know, investing software specifically, you know, it's not for you. You're not going to succeed in this, at least here. But I think that, you know, this is something we really care about. Trading technology is something we care about. I was working on this last night with my girlfriend, who's a much better programmer than me. And it was like 7 p.m. and I was like starting to get it to work. It tried to buy at 278 and sell at 277. I was like, it didn't work, thankfully, but it was like spamming that same order over and over again. It's like all the money would be drained. Every dollar would be drained. Someone would be like, okay, here. She was like, are you sure you want to do that? I was like, kind of trolling her a little bit. She was like, Martin, you know this, like Python can like do like lots of, it'll send all those orders in. And before you can even cancel it, I was like, it was perfectly fine. The orders are perfectly fine. But so yesterday's bug, for anybody that wants to know, WSL does bind the other IP address. So you do have to get the IP address from ipconfig. It will not, right? That is Knight Capital, Eric. That is totally what Knight Capital did, right? So you do have to get the IP address straight from ipconfig on Windows because WSL does not think 127.0.0.1 or localhost is what it is. The goal of this repo is not to beat Citadel. The goal of this repo is to get the ball rolling. I think you can do just fine against Citadel, quite frankly, market making, as long as you're in the right stock. If you're in a stock where you're going to get big changes in the stock price quickly that persist, you obviously don't want to market make in that stock. Do you want a delta hedge or do you want to beta hedge against the S&P is another question, or a pair trade. So there's lots of, you know, when you do accumulate inventory. But we are going to give people storage space and stuff like that. I'm actually working on that myself. Yeah, I'm going to put this code up for Godel users. I think that HFT and quant is a lot easier to understand than people give it credit for. I think like one of the things that space has succeeded in really well is mystifying it. And that, you know, if you mystify something sufficiently, you scare people from actually doing it. Yeah, Andrew, I taught a lot of basic subjects on YouTube, so I absolutely can do that too. I've been considering making this series like Python for executives or Python for entrepreneurs or Python for startups, you know, because everybody should know it. I mean, so I need a new IP address here. I think GPT 4.5 is currently kind of the good one. Oh, accept incoming connection. Okay, don't market make. No. Start sending orders. Okay, some date time. Buy 578, sell 577, rinse and repeat. Profits. Oh, I also need to run the server. That's why that wasn't working. Server.py. And that's not going to work for a number of reasons, particularly the IP address. This just runs. Oh, and here's what the front end looks like. Actually super fast. You guys might enjoy this for just prices direct from IBKR. Look how fast it is. I'm not sure actually this is doing it the right way. There may be a thread problem here. This may not be right actually. Oh, there's a fallback random generator. See, this is the problem with Claude. I'm livid right now. Claude inserted a whole bunch of like simulations, random data, all this stuff I didn't ask for. 100% it was Claude again, RC. It didn't tell me either. It's like, okay, I'm gonna create a fallback with random prices. I was like, these prices don't look right. I didn't tell you to make a fallback. Like, I don't want a fallback. You want to fall back real prices to random price? Stop it. Look at this. In case of connection issues, we'll use a fallback to generate random data. Oh my God. Look at starting random number generator. I mean, it's not enough code that like I was expecting. Oh my God, look at these code. This is 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗢 code. This is what FTX did. This is what FTX used to do. Oh, yeah. Bitcoin's trading at 90,000. Yeah, buy it all you want. Sell it all you want. Just give us the money. How much you want? How much you want to trade? Cool. I got you. Okay, no data. That's better than real data. So, and I told it, I was like, don't give me simulated data. I want simulated data. There's a special address. Look at this. Host. I didn't know this. Host.docker.internal. It works. Okay, there is the real data. And this is at 250 milliseconds. We're gonna run the market maker. Okay, Interactive's asking again for a connection. It sees all my trades, but again, date time error. It's like the most trivial error. What is this, line 241? I think we have two conflicting imports maybe. Date time. Is there another import date time? That's why. Thanks, Claude.